Imagine a king who ruled the wealthiest nation in Europe yet could not afford to feed his own people. Imagine whispers in salons, secret pamphlets circulating through Paris, and underground clubs where nobles and commoners alike plotted the end of a centuries-old monarchy. In the late 1780s, Louis XVI of France sat on a crumbling throne while forces of revolution gathered in shadow.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay updated with our latest videos.
The French Revolution is usually remembered as a sudden eruption, but in truth it was prepared by years of intrigue, secret networks, and a slow-burning conspiracy against royal power. By the 1780s, France was a glittering kingdom built on fragile foundations. The Bourbon monarchy enjoyed immense prestige, yet the treasury was nearly bankrupt. Decades of costly wars, support for the American Revolution, conflict with Britain, and lavish spending at Versailles had drained the state. Taxes fell mainly on peasants and the urban poor, while the privileged clergy and nobility paid little. Grain shortages and rising bread prices brought ordinary Parisians to desperation. Beneath the grand facades of Paris and Versailles, hunger and resentment simmered. Into this volatile atmosphere came a new force, the Enlightenment. Philosophers such as Voltaire, Rousseau, and Montesquieu questioned divine right, promoted individual liberty, and championed the idea that government should serve the people. Their books, often banned, spread through clandestine print shops and were read aloud in coffeehouses and literary salons. Wealthy hostesses like Madame Geoffrin and the Duchess of Polignac hosted gatherings where nobles, bourgeois intellectuals, and radical thinkers debated reform. These salons acted as incubators for revolutionary ideas, blurring social boundaries and encouraging the belief that absolute monarchy could be challenged. As economic crisis deepened, secret political clubs began to form. The most famous would later be the Jacobins, but even before the revolution, smaller societies of lawyers, journalists, and provincial deputies met to discuss strategy. Freemason lodges, fashionable among the elite, provided discreet venues for debate. While not all Masonic groups were revolutionary, their rituals of equality and fraternity offered a symbolic alternative to the rigid hierarchy of the Ancien regime. Members shared pamphlets and forged connections that would later become critical in mobilizing protests. Louis XVI, well-meaning but indecisive, sensed the growing danger but struggled to act. In 1787 he summoned an assembly of notables, hoping that aristocrats would approve new taxes. Instead, they demanded reforms and greater transparency. When that failed, he called for the Estates General, a national assembly that had not met in 175 years. This decision, intended to solve a financial crisis, instead opened the door to political revolution. Elections for the Estates General gave commoners a rare chance to right grievances and organize locally. Across France, meetings erupted with demands for equality, constitutional limits on royal power, and an end to feudal privileges. Behind the scenes, activists worked tirelessly to shape these elections. Lawyers and journalists such as Emmanuel Joseph Size distributed pamphlets with incendiary titles like "What is the Third Estate?", arguing that the common people were the true nation. Secret printers churned out leaflets calling for resistance to royal authority. Radical newspapers such as Les Révolutions de Paris spread rumors of government plots and encouraged Parisians to arm themselves. Information traveled faster than ever thanks to improved postal routes and a literate urban population hungry for news.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay updated with our latest videos.
Foreign influences also played a role in this quiet conspiracy. Veterans of the American Revolution, including Marquis de Lafayette, returned to France with first-hand experience of successful rebellion. They brought not only stories of liberty but also personal connections to American leaders and ideas about constitutional government. British observers, some sympathetic, others eager to weaken a rival, smuggled reports and political theories across the Channel. The revolution was not merely a French affair, it was part of a transatlantic network of revolutionary thought. By the spring of 1789, Paris was a city on edge. The Estates General opened in May, but disputes over voting rights quickly deadlocked the assembly. Traditionally, each of the three estates, clergy, nobility, and commoners, voted separately, allowing the privileged orders to outvote the Third Estate. Encouraged by pamphleteers and secret meetings, the deputies of the Third Estate declared themselves the National Assembly, claiming to represent the people of France. On June 20th, they took the tennis court oath, vowing not to separate until they had drafted a new constitution. It was a direct challenge to the king's authority. Louis XVI hesitated. Some advisors urged him to use force to dissolve the assembly. Others counseled compromise. While the king vacillated, Paris erupted. Grain shortages sparked riots, and rumors spread that royal troops planned to arrest the National Assembly. On July 14, 1789, an armed crowd stormed the Bastille, a medieval fortress and prison that symbolized royal tyranny. The fall of the Bastille electrified France and the world. What began as whispered meetings and pamphlet campaigns had exploded into open revolution. In the months that followed, the networks that had prepared the uprising continued to drive events. Political clubs multiplied. The Cordeliers, the Jacobins, and the Feuillants debated the next steps in crowded halls. Secret committees within these clubs coordinated demonstrations, drafted petitions, and maintained contact with sympathetic soldiers. Radical journalists like Jean-Paul Marat and Camille Desmoulins used newspapers to rally the populace and expose royalist plots, real or imagined. The king's every move was scrutinized, and each rumor of counter-revolution fueled demands for harsher measures. Louis XVI tried to navigate the storm. In October 1789, after an angry crowd, many of them women protesting bread shortages, marched on Versailles, he reluctantly moved to Paris, effectively becoming a prisoner of the revolution. He publicly accepted a constitutional monarchy but privately sought support from other European rulers. In 1791, he attempted a secret escape known as the Flight to Varennes, hoping to reach loyal troops in the east. The plan failed, and his capture shattered what remained of his credibility. For many revolutionaries, the king's flight confirmed that he conspired against the people. Foreign intervention loomed as Austria and Prussia threatened to restore the monarchy by force. Revolutionary leaders, some of whom had been agitating in secret for years, now pushed for war to defend the revolution and expose internal enemies. As fighting began in 1792, radical clubs and street activists demanded the abolition of the monarchy altogether. On August 10, 1792, militants stormed the Tuileries Palace, overthrowing the king's authority. Louis XVI was tried for treason and executed by guillotine in January 1793. The hidden networks that had prepared the revolution did not end with the king's death. Some leaders, like Robespierre and Danton, rose to power in the Committee of Public Safety, directing a new phase of radical transformation and repression. Others fell victim to the very forces they had unleashed. But the conspiracy against Louis XVI had achieved its ultimate aim, the destruction of the absolute monarchy and the birth of a republic. Looking back, it is clear that the French Revolution was not a sudden accident. It was the product of years of planning, persuasion, and underground organization. Philosophers spread dangerous ideas in books and salons. Secret printers and pamphleteers seeded the public with revolutionary arguments. Political clubs forged alliances and prepared strategies long before the first shots were fired. Economic crisis and royal indecision provided the spark, but the powder had been laid carefully by countless hands. Today, visitors to Paris can still walk the paths of this hidden history. The quiet courtyards of the Marais once hosted radical printers. The halls of the Palais Royal, now a serene garden, were once alive with fiery speeches and clandestine meetings. The tennis court where deputies swore their famous oath still stands as a reminder that revolutions are built not only on sudden violence but on patient, often secret preparation. The secret plot against Louis XVI reminds us that great political upheavals rarely come out of nowhere. They grow in the dark, nurtured by ideas, networks, and quiet acts of courage, until a single moment brings them into the open. The French Revolution began with conversations and pamphlets but ended with a king's execution and a continent forever changed. If this journey into the shadowed origins of the French Revolution captured your imagination, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden stories of history. What do you think mattered most? The philosophers who shaped the ideas, the underground organizers who spread them, or the ordinary people who finally took to the streets?